The BBC News, first on BBC One, with Michael Burke.
NATO stands accused tonight of bombing an old people's home in Serbia. 17 people are reported dead, but NATO says the campaign goes on. Rangers vice-chairman goes after singing sectarian songs at a party. And the goal of the season takes Watford into the Premiership. Good evening. NATO has been vigorously defending its bombing campaign in the Balkans despite new accusations of a blunder that's killed more than a dozen civilians. The Serbs say 2 missiles hit a sanatorium and an old people's home. 17 bodies are said to have been recovered. NATO's admitted attacking a barracks in the same town, Sudolica, but said it couldn't confirm the civilian casualties. John Simpson reports from Belgrade. His report's been seen but not changed by the Serb authorities.
The pleasant country town of Sudolica has now suffered twice in little over a month from stray bombs. This time they hit an old people's home. Nearby, in the wooded grounds, was a sanitarium. Between the 2 buildings, 17 people are thought to have died. The bodies were still lying around when the Western camera teams arrived. Incidents like this enable the government here to claim that NATO is now intentionally targeting civilians, and most people here seem to believe that. Scarcely 12 hours earlier, the bridge outside the little town of Varvarin in central Serbia was hit. It was market day, and Varvarin was busy. The first airstrike knocked the bridge down. Then came the real disaster. As people gathered to help the relatively few victims of the first attack, more bombs struck 10 minutes later. The bridge is strategically important and its destruction is significant. So is the death of 11 people in this small town. Nearby, an old lady looks down from her wrecked block of flats. It was full of refugees from one of President Milosevic's earlier wars. Her son and she were among them. He's already been taken to hospital. Now the ambulance has come back for her. Such incidents make powerful propaganda for President Milosevic. At present, he seems to be moving slowly closer to a peace deal, but he's still refusing to accept NATO's basic demands. Rather than cave in totally, he might even prefer to face a ground war. And so the daily destruction continues. This is one of today's hits in Kosovo. NATO's mistakes are not diminishing, yet if Mr. Milosevic thought that civilian casualties would force NATO to give up its campaign, it hasn't happened. John Simpson, BBC News, Belgrade.
And there have been more reports of NATO hitting civilian targets in Serbia tonight. The Yugoslav state news agency says at least 10 people were killed when a block of flats was hit in the southern town of Novi Pazar. Earlier, NATO's spokesman Jamie Shea had defended the alliance's record of civilian casualties during the campaign, comparing it to the many thousands who've suffered from Serb violence in Kosovo.
I've got some civilian casualty figures for you this afternoon. 550,000 internally displaced persons in Kosovo, 883,500 refugees in neighbouring countries, 75% of which are women and children. That is, I think, the vital casualty statistics as far as NATO is concerned, and that is the generation of Milosevic's bullets, not NATO's bombs.
Well, the BBC's Hugh Schofield is at NATO headquarters in Brussels. Hugh, NATO seems to have decided to stop apologising when it makes mistakes and kills civilians.
Yes, there has been a hardening of the tone. There's been something of the steely gaze out of NATO today. Privately, I would say some officials do concede that there have been blunders. This bridge, for example, yesterday they're saying that pilots are normally under instructions to abort missions when they can see civilians near a target area. That didn't happen. There must have been a blunder. Equally, the evidence now seems irrefutable that missiles have gone astray. They're blunders. But publicly, of course, there is this line now, unrepentant, unapologetic, and I get the sense that it's come from high up. The line seems to be that to apologise now would be to send out the wrong kind of signals, particularly when they get the sense that President Milosevic might be wavering. I think they feel that to apologise would to sound embarrassed, to sound shifty, to sound guilty. Those aren't sentiments that they want to feel. They want to feel this is a just war.
Hugh Schofield, thanks very much indeed. The vice-chairman of Rangers Football Club, Donald Findlay, has resigned after he was videoed singing sectarian songs at a party to celebrate the team's win over Celtic in the Scottish Cup final. Mr. Findlay said it was a serious misjudgment on his part. Rob McLean reports.
Sectarian songs sung by the vice-chairman of Rangers and captured on amateur video by a partygoer at a social club next door to Ibrox Stadium. Donald Findlay's 10-minute routine was a collection of anti-Catholic anthems. A night of celebration had become a night of shame. Hours earlier, Rangers had won the Tennent's Scottish Cup at Hampden to complete a domestic treble. In the build-up to the final, after trouble on and off the pitch at the last Old Firm match, both Rangers and Celtic had appealed for calm. Findlay's fate was decided when today's Daily Record newspaper made public the private party sing-song. The colourful QC, who's played a flamboyant part in some of Scotland's highest-profile court cases, knew he had to go. His offer of resignation was immediately accepted by Rangers chairman David Murray. Findlay admitted a serious misjudgment and unacceptable conduct.
We cannot 1 minute say we have a policy of trying to improve the sectarian issue and then approve such an evening such as this. It was wrong, and Donald has paid the price.
Glasgow remains a divided city. Football is an obvious outlet for the deep-rooted religious hatred between some Protestants and Catholics, which all too often spills over into violence. The flute-playing antics of Paul Gascoigne betrayed an ignorance of the sometimes bloody repercussions. Rangers and Celtic have both denounced bigotry, but moving into the new millennium, the old problems still exist. The Donald Findlay video is more than embarrassing for Rangers. The club's image has suffered serious damage at a time when it wanted to heighten its credibility around Europe. Even this most eminent of lawyers would struggle to find a case for the defence. Rob McLean, BBC News, Glasgow.
One of the families of the IRA murder victims killed in the 1970s has called on the IRA to give more help in the search for their bodies. Police in the Irish Republic have been searching at a number of places close to the border with Northern Ireland.
The picturesque coastline at Carlingford Lough has not yet given up its terrible secret. For the family of Belfast mother of 10, Jean McConville, the anguished vigil continues. Each member adding to a small posy of flowers at the spot they hope marks her hidden grave. For 4 days, the family has watched and waited as the area being searched is extended. As frustration sets in, they've appealed to the IRA to give practical help in finding her body.
I demand that they help me. And the other families, I mean, the same difficulties are being experienced at other sites around the country at the moment. You know, it's quite easy for them to leave a coffin in a graveyard. For whatever work reason they've done so, but at least that body was easily recovered. Get down here and do the same for us.
But the IRA's political wing didn't feel there was anything more they could do.
Once the IRA decided to do the right thing and to find and to begin a process to have these bodies retrieved, they obviously want to give all of the information that they could. And I know it's very harrowing for the families and for everyone else who's watching this, but I just presume that the Commission has all the information that there is.
Then, late this evening, as the shadows lengthened, the Irish police thought they'd found Jean McConville's body. It was a time of mixed emotions for her family. 27 years of torment and uncertainty coming to a heartbreaking end. But within a few minutes, the forensic teams indicated the remains they'd found were not human. It was almost too much for the family to bear. But as the search was suspended for the night, they vowed to be back tomorrow to maintain their sad vigil. Tom Coulter, BBC News, Belfast.
Scientists in Hawaii have produced a clone of a male mouse, the first to be produced from an adult cell. Up to now, all the animals cloned using techniques similar to that used to produce Dolly the sheep have been female. The clone was produced by injecting DNA from a male mouse into an egg previously emptied of its own genetic material. The mouse, named Fibro, here on the right with his genetic father, is said to be healthy and normal. 2 men and a woman have been killed in a mid-air collision between 2 gliders in North Derbyshire. The aircraft was several hundred feet about the village of Great Hucklow when the accident happened. The 3 people who died were all members of the Derbyshire and Lancashire Gliding Club. More than 50 people have been crushed to death and more than 100 injured in an underground railway station in the Belarus capital, Minsk. The accident happened when people watching a rock concert stampeded into the subway to shelter from a thunderstorm. British motorists had their cars attacked during a protest by striking Channel Tunnel workers in Calais. Cars were kicked and beaten by dozens of French strikers who want Eurotunnel to improve working conditions. Travellers faced long delays on the journey home to Britain.
They were so near home and yet so far. French train crews protesting over pay and conditions blockaded the Eurotunnel rail link in Calais. They prevented thousands of frustrated holidaymakers from boarding the shuttle to get back to the UK. For 5 hours there was a standoff as tempers mounted on both sides. Angry exchanges became increasingly violent as 1 or 2 motorists eventually forced their way through. As the risk of serious injury grew, the protesters were forced to give way. The French union leader was outraged. Someone could have been killed, he said. What's happening is scandalous. One protester needed hospital treatment for minor injuries, and the strikers eventually agreed to lift the blockade. Even so, long delays continued all day, and the protesters say they could be back if their demands aren't met. Kathy Killick, BBC News.
In cricket's World Cup, New Zealand are through to the Super 6 stage after beating Scotland at Edinburgh today. The Kiwis reached the target of 121 off fewer than 18 overs. They had to score the runs in 21 overs or less in order to push their run rate ahead of the West Indies, who are now out of the competition. Scotland's opening pair failed again, and the procession of wickets continued despite resistance from Stanger and Hamilton, the only Scots to reach double figures. At Northampton, there was a shock win for Bangladesh, who beat Pakistan by 62 runs. Pakistan contributed to their own downfall. The batting collapse left them at 42 for 5, and the target of 224 proved too much. Watford have clinched a place in the English Football Premiership next season. They beat Bolton Wanderers 2-0 at Wembley this afternoon in the Division 1 playoff final. It's the 2nd season running they've been promoted, and it means a return to the top flight for the former England manager Graham Taylor.
A familiar journey for Watford manager Graham Taylor that will have evoked mixed memories. It's 6 years since he was last in charge of an England side here, 15 since seeing his current team lose the 1984 FA Cup final. Bolton Wanderers have a proud Wembley pedigree, and they could and should have taken a first-half lead. Gudjonsson unable to make the most of a defensive error. But it was Watford who scored shortly before the break. Nick Wright with a spectacular finish. One of the better goals scored at Wembley in recent years. Halfway through the second half, Watford were inches away from making it 2. Tommy Mooney, the unlucky player. Bolton came close to an equaliser with just 5 minutes remaining. Gudjonsson's effort going agonisingly wide. Moments later, Watford secured their place in the Premiership after a fine move culminating in Alan Smart's cool finish. That meant Watford and their general manager were able to celebrate their 2nd promotion in successive seasons. Bernie Rose, BBC News.
And the main news again tonight, NATO says its campaign against Yugoslavia will continue despite Serb claims that more than 20 civilians have been killed in today's bomb attacks. That's it, that's all from the newsroom tonight. Good night.
Good evening. Armed police officers have arrested a man in Gloucester during an investigation into allegations of firearms offences and making threats to kill. It follows an incident earlier this month in Worcester, where another man is already under arrest.
The 33-year-old man was arrested at the weekend in a quiet street near Gloucester city centre. His car was stopped by an armed response unit from Gloucestershire Police acting on behalf of colleagues from Worcester.
I came out of my front door and there was a policeman with a gun. There was a big police car there, a car sandwiched in the middle, and another police car the other side, and they were just screaming at this man to get out of the car and lie on the floor.
The man was taken to Worcester Police Station for questioning and later released without charge. He's due to return here on Thursday. The Worcester man who was arrested 3 weeks ago has already appeared here before the city's magistrates to be charged with firearms and related offences. He was released on conditional bail. Giles Latcham, BBC Midlands Today, Worcester.
A Birmingham family identified as nuisance neighbours have been saved from eviction by the same residents who'd campaigned to drive them out. The family from Stetchford have been the subject of complaints about antisocial behaviour. Legal proceedings for eviction began last month, but now neighbours have appealed to the council to give them another chance.
From hatred to harmony, Linda and Mark Coley and their 5 children reunited with the neighbours who'd campaigned to get them evicted.
I'm relieved in a big way that the neighbours that have come with me and helped me along the line now. So, really pleased. I'm so emotional at the end of the day.
Neighbours felt so sorry for the family, they begged the council to give them one last chance.
Well, we had our disagreements, but we spoke about it. All the Grove decided to give him a second chance.
At first I disliked him. I really wanted to have a go at him, but it's changed altogether now.
The council eviction notice is live for 12 months and could be reactivated. The Coleys know it's up to them to keep the peace. Nick Watson, BBC Midlands Today.
A man has been found dead in a cell at Stafford Prison. The 26-year-old, who hasn't yet been identified, was found hanged. A full investigation is now underway. Around 24,000 passengers used the new Midland Metro light railway system on its first day today. There were teething troubles, though. At West Bromwich, vandals smashed a window, showering passengers with glass, and a tram was delayed in Birmingham for almost an hour after a technical fault. Some cricket results now in today's National League matches in Division 1. Gloucestershire Gladiators beat Worcestershire Royals by 50 runs. Leicestershire Foxes lost to Lancashire Lightning by 52 runs. And Warwickshire Bears were completely outplayed by Essex Eagles to lose by 129 runs. Division 2, a close match saw Glamorgan Dragons beat Northamptonshire Steelbacks, while there was a win by 6 wickets for Derbyshire Scorpions against Surrey Lions. That's it from us this evening. Richard will be here tomorrow morning with the morning news. Bye-bye.
Before the storm, and I mean, yes, that sort of storm. But at the moment, we've got an area of high pressure over us, so not much weather around, although there is a fair amount of cloud. The high slips away. Just watch that area of low pressure develop as it moves up from France, and then that too moves away, and we get perhaps a run of northwesterly winds to end the week. But it's that low pressure coming up from France that's the important thing. I have a weather watch for you, because on Wednesday and into Thursday, across central and southern parts of the country, some very wet weather indeed, and there could well be some local flooding. Now, there's quite a lot of cloud around at the moment. This thicker band of cloud to the northwest of Scotland will continue to advance in during the rest of the night. It'll bring with it some outbreaks of rain to that northwestern part of Scotland, perhaps a spot or two into Northern Ireland. A fairly mild night generally everywhere. Now, already we're beginning to see the cloud breaking in the east, so we start off, I think, with some sunshine in eastern parts of England. And for southeast Scotland, most of England and Wales, I think we'll see the sun breaking through during the course of the day, maybe the odd light shower here and there, and a hint of what's to come with some thunderstorms in the Channel Islands. In Northern Ireland, the northwestern half of Scotland, though, more in the way of cloud, some outbreaks of rain, mostly light and patchy. Cooler there, quite warm in other parts. And then, as I said, on Wednesday and Thursday, the fun and games start as the heavy and thundery rain comes up from the south.